A weary disciple approached the Buddha, seeking wisdom. "Why?" he asked. "Do we feel as though everything is ending when we face our greatest struggles? Why does hope seem elusive, leaving only darkness before us?" The Buddha, after a moment of contemplation, gazed at the sky and spoke softly. "It is darkest just before the dawn." The disciple struggled to grasp this insight. The Buddha continued, "People often forget that the deepest darkness heralds the approach of dawn. Life mirrors this truth. In our most challenging moments, it may seem as if the pain will never end, that joy is lost forever, and hope is but a distant memory. Yet, it is often in these very moments that life is on the brink of transformation." The Buddha reassured the disciple, the urge to give up does not stem from weakness, but from enduring for so long. You are not alone in feeling exhausted. The disciple's eyes moistened, for he had indeed felt he could endure no more. The Buddha's voice was gentle as he said, "Do not believe that today's darkness will last forever. Night inevitably gives way to dawn. You may be in the darkest hour of your life, but this does not signify its end." This teaching explores why new light follows the darkest times and how we can persevere through them. If you find yourself weary and burdened, hold on a little longer. Perhaps you are on the cusp of dawn. The disciple pondered further. Why do people lose hope in their darkest moments? The Buddha replied, "Because they see only the darkness before them." This simple statement carried profound meaning. When suffering strikes, people become consumed by their current pain, overwhelmed by endless worries, tears, and crumbling realities. Hope becomes obscured. The Buddha continued, "In the depths of darkness, people forget that light exists." The disciple listened quietly, reflecting on past hardships that had seemed insurmountable, moments when it felt as though all was lost. Yet he had endured and emerged from those times. "Pain is not eternal," the Buddha explained, "but when we are in its grip, we mistakenly believe it will last forever." The disciple took a deeper breath, realizing that his current suffering might also be a passing phase. The Buddha illustrated his point with a story. A traveler walked through a pitch-black night, unable to see the end of his path, feeling trapped in perpetual darkness. But as he continued, the eastern sky began to brighten, revealing that the darkness was merely the precursor to dawn. "Hope is not absent," the Buddha said. "It is simply unseen at the moment." The disciple's perspective began to shift, realizing that his life might indeed be moving toward a new dawn. The Buddha emphasized, "In your darkest moments, the key is not to hold on to grand hopes, but simply not to give up." The disciple sat in silence, feeling the weight of needing to solve everything lift, replaced by a resolve to live just one more day. The Buddha concluded, "The deeper the darkness, the closer the dawn. Do not fear it too much." The disciple wondered why the hardest times often become turning points in life. The Buddha replied, "Because it is then that we awaken." In hardship, we learn more than in peace, what is truly valuable, what to let go of, and how to live with a renewed heart. The Buddha continued, "Adversity can break us, but it can also awaken us." The disciple reflected on his past pains, realizing they had not been mere suffering, but had subtly transformed him. Through those times, he had come to appreciate the simple beauty of a day and the warmth of those around him. "The deepest wounds can lead to the deepest insights," the Buddha said. The disciple felt his breath deepen, sensing that even his tears were not in vain. The Buddha shared another story. A person faced a great failure and believed all was lost, sinking into despair and resentment. Yet, with time, he came to see that without that experience, he would not have become who he was. Though painful, it had been a period of immense growth. "Adversity does not come to punish, but to help you grow," the Buddha assured. The disciple's eyes brightened, beginning to see that his current struggles might one day hold meaning. The Buddha advised, "Do not focus solely on the pain of the present. Look forward to the change that will follow." The disciple sat in silence, feeling a new sense of hope take root, realizing that even in times he thought were the end, there might still be hope. The Buddha concluded, "The darkest night leads to the most beautiful dawn." In the quietude of a serene setting, a disciple sat listening intently as the Buddha began to speak. The question posed was simple yet profound. Why do some people endure to the end, while others give up along the way? The Buddha, with a gentle wisdom, explained that the difference lies not in physical strength or extraordinary abilities, but in the presence of a small, resilient hope within the heart. Hope need not be grand or overwhelming. It can be as modest as the desire to live just one more day. The disciple absorbed these words, realizing the misconception that only the strong persevere. In truth, those who have endured have often faced countless tears, moments of collapse, and the temptation to surrender. The crucial difference is that they never completely let go. The Buddha further clarified that endurance is not about believing in a distant future, but about not giving up on today. The disciple reflected on this, recognizing that despite fears of an uncertain future, they had managed to navigate each day as it came. The Buddha illustrated this with the metaphor of trees in a storm. Some trees are uprooted, while others withstand the tempest. The difference is not in their strength, but in the depth of their roots. Similarly, in life, what sustains a person through turmoil is not wealth or fame, but the deep-seated hope within. The disciple felt a stirring realization. It was not grand acts of courage that had brought them this far, but the simple act of not giving up day by day. The Buddha continued, explaining that life is not about enduring a single lifetime, but about enduring each day and night, one after the other. The disciple, now silent, began to shift their perspective from worrying about the years ahead to focusing on living through today. The Buddha concluded with a poignant reminder that dawn comes to those who do not give up. The disciple, curious about the transformative power of tears and pain, asked why current suffering could eventually become a source of strength. The Buddha explained that pain deepens a person. Through suffering, one grows, learns empathy, and discovers resilience. Those who have cried much are less likely to overlook the tears of others. Reflecting on past hardships, the disciple realized they had not been entirely destructive. Instead, those experiences had deepened their understanding and warmth. The Buddha noted that while wounds leave scars, those scars can often make a person stronger. The disciple began to see that today's tears might not just be painful memories, but could eventually become a protective strength. The Buddha shared an example of someone who faced long periods of failure, losing people and hope, and spending nights in tears. Yet, over time, this person learned to appreciate small joys and understand others' pain. The tears did not break them, but rather made them a deeper person. The disciple's eyes brightened with the understanding that current pain would not remain as such forever. The Buddha continued, teaching that while suffering and tears may pass, the strength gained from enduring those times remains. The disciple, now silent, began to believe that today's tears might not be in vain. The Buddha added that even the longest night eventually gives way to a deeper peace for those who endure. The disciple asked why those who have endured the hardest times seem more at peace. The Buddha replied that they have learned that everything passes. Before experiencing hardship, one might feel that current suffering is eternal. However, those who have weathered long nights understand that even profound sorrow and despair eventually fade. Knowing that everything passes, such individuals are less easily shaken. The disciple, reflecting on past anxieties, realized that they had begun to understand that these too would pass. The Buddha noted that the greatest hardships teach patience, and the disciple pondered whether those difficult times had changed their outlook on life. The Buddha shared the story of a sailor who initially feared even small waves, but, after many storms, learned that waves and storms are not eternal. Similarly, people who have endured long nights face life's challenges with greater equanimity. The Buddha concluded by saying that the time spent enduring becomes a lasting peace within. The disciple's gaze softened with the realization that the current period of endurance could one day become a source of deep inner strength and tranquility. The Buddha spoke with a gentle assurance, offering solace to those who find themselves in the midst of life's storms. "It is all right to feel overwhelmed," he began, "and it is all right to waver. What matters most is that you do not give up. Keep moving forward." His disciple sat quietly, absorbing these words, and gradually a glimmer of hope began to take root within him. even amidst a seemingly endless struggle. The Buddha continued, imparting a timeless wisdom. The darkest hour is just before dawn. Hold on a little longer, for the dawn is already on its way. The disciple, curious and earnest, asked, "Why is it so crucial not to give up now?" The Buddha paused, then replied with a profound simplicity, "Because those who give up will never see the dawn." These words, though few, resonated deeply. In times of great difficulty, it is natural to feel the urge to let go of everything. When the path seems endless and change seems elusive, the temptation to abandon the journey can be strong. Yet, the Buddha reminded his disciple that the greatest regret often lies not in failure, but in giving up too soon. Reflecting on his own life, the disciple recalled moments where perseverance might have changed the outcome. Times when, had he waited just a little longer or endured a bit more, things might have turned out differently. The Buddha noted that many people turn back just before the dawn breaks. This realization struck a chord with the disciple, prompting him to wonder if he too was at such a pivotal moment. To illustrate his point, the Buddha shared a story of someone climbing a mountain. Exhausted and unable to see the summit, the climber contemplated giving up. Yet, with a final push, he reached the peak and was rewarded with a breathtaking view. Had he surrendered earlier, he would have missed this sight forever. Life, the Buddha explained, is much the same. People often abandon their efforts just before they are about to succeed. You are not at the end, the Buddha reassured, but in the midst of your journey. The disciple's eyes brightened with this insight, realizing that his current struggles might simply be part of an unfinished story. The Buddha emphasized that enduring today could be the choice that transforms one's entire life. The disciple, now more reflective, resolved to focus on not giving up today rather than worrying about the distant future. The Buddha concluded, "The time you are enduring is not in vain. Keep walking a little further. Why does the dawn come to those who hold on?" The disciple pondered this, and the Buddha explained, "Because they have traversed the darkness." This simple statement carried a profound truth. Dawn comes to all, but not everyone is awake to witness it. Many succumb to fatigue or despair, losing hope along the way. Endurance, the Buddha clarified, does not mean being strong. It means not giving up. The disciple listened intently, reflecting on his own life, filled with moments of collapse and tears, times when he wanted to abandon everything. Yet, he had survived to see today. The Buddha assured him that those who endure unknowingly grow stronger, and the disciple began to see his struggles as a process of quiet fortification. The Buddha shared another example, a tree enduring the harsh winter. It faced biting winds and heavy snow, a long and arduous season. But when spring arrived, it blossomed with the most beautiful new leaves. Had it not endured the winter, it would never have welcomed the spring. People too are like this tree. The time spent enduring eventually leads to a new season. The Buddha reminded his disciple that current hardships are not meant to halt one's progress, but to deepen and strengthen one's resolve. The disciple's perspective shifted, seeing what he once thought was an end as possibly a preparation for a new beginning. The Buddha continued, "Dawn does not arrive suddenly. It comes gradually as the night fades. Just because you cannot see hope now does not mean it is absent." The disciple sat in silence, realizing that enduring the day without solving everything might be enough. The Buddha's final words lingered. "The deeper the darkness, the closer the dawn. Hold on just a bit longer." The disciple asked why present suffering could become a future blessing. The Buddha answered, "Because there are things you only understand once they have passed." Though brief, this insight held profound wisdom. In the midst of suffering, its purpose is often obscured by pain and sorrow. But with time, one realizes that these experiences contribute to who they have become. The disciple listened, acknowledging that past hardships, though unbearable at the time, were pivotal in his growth. The Buddha explained that not all suffering is a blessing, but for those who grow through it, it becomes one. The disciple, breathing deeply, began to see his current pain as something that might one day hold a different meaning. Once, a disciple approached the Buddha, burdened by a profound sense of loss and failure. He felt as though his life had come to an end, having lost everything he held dear. Yet, The Buddha shared a story that resonated deeply. He spoke of someone who had similarly faced a great failure, believing it to be a curse. However, this very failure became a turning point, prompting the individual to reflect inwardly for the first time. Over time, this reflection altered his life's direction and softened his approach to others. Years later, he realized that what once seemed like a curse was, in fact, a blessing. Often, it is only in hindsight that we recognize the true value of our past struggles. The Buddha gently reminded the disciple that today's tears can transform into tomorrow's wisdom. This insight began to settle within the disciple, offering a new perspective on his current hardships. He started to see that these challenges might not leave a permanent scar, but could instead become a source of strength. The Buddha continued, explaining that suffering does not arrive to destroy us, but rather to deepen our understanding of life. The disciple, silent in contemplation, began to consider the hidden meanings behind his struggles, rather than focusing solely on the pain. In a final piece of wisdom, the Buddha reassured him that it was all right if today's trials seemed incomprehensible. In time, he would understand why he had to endure them, and how even the deepest wounds can eventually fade. The disciple, still grappling with his pain, asked if his current suffering would truly pass. The Buddha, after a moment of reflection, spoke of impermanence, a fundamental truth that nothing in this world remains unchanged. Seasons shift, weather changes, and even the human heart evolves. Thus, pain too is transient. Understanding this impermanence can lighten the burden of suffering. The disciple listened quietly, recalling the initial intensity of his hurt, which had once felt suffocating. Yet, as time passed, the pain began to change, no longer consuming him as it once did. The Buddha noted that while time does not erase wounds, it does make them more bearable. With this realization, the disciple's breath deepened, and he began to entertain the possibility that his sorrow might not bind him forever. The Buddha illustrated his point with a metaphor. After a heavy rainstorm, a mountain path becomes obscured by mud, but with time, the sun and wind reveal the path once more. Similarly, human hearts can find their way back to clarity after being overwhelmed by initial hurt. The Buddha assured the disciple that he was not weakened by his pain, but was learning to live alongside it. This understanding brought tears to the disciple's eyes, as he realized that his tears would not last forever and might one day be viewed as cherished memories. The Buddha encouraged him to remember that nothing remains unchanging. Even if it seemed difficult to believe at the moment, the disciple could now hold a glimmer of hope amidst his sorrow. The Buddha concluded by reminding him that the darkest hour is just before dawn, and inevitably, the light of a new day will come. The disciple sat in silence, absorbing the teachings as they began to weave together in his mind. Finally, the disciple spoke softly, expressing a newfound understanding. He began to grasp why he had faced such difficult times, why his tears had flowed, and why he had to continue living even when it felt as though everything had ended. The Buddha smiled gently and said that the disciple was beginning to look beyond the darkness, toward the dawn. The disciple's eyes filled with tears once more, but this time they were tears of realization. He had once cursed his suffering and resented his life, but now he understood that these experiences had not only broken him down, they had also deepened his understanding and empathy, allowing him to embrace the pain of others. The disciple listened intently as the Buddha explained that enduring long nights does not make one stronger, it makes one more profound. Through understanding pain and the meaning of tears, one becomes capable of holding the suffering of others. The disciple realized that his past failures, wounds, and loneliness were not wasted moments. They were silently nurturing his growth. The Buddha affirmed that the time he had endured would never be lost. It would return as a source of strength in his life. The disciple's breath deepened once more as he considered that what he thought was the end might have been a path leading toward the dawn. In closing, the Buddha reminded him that if he was passing through his darkest hour, he should remember that night is not eternal, nor are tears or pain. The darkest hour is just before dawn, so he should hold on a little longer. The dawn he awaited might be closer than he realized. The disciple bowed his head slowly, acknowledging that while his life had not suddenly changed and his pain had not vanished, one thing was different. He no longer saw it as the end. This shift alone marked a new beginning. the Buddha offered one final thought. Today's tears will one day bring laughter, and today's hardships will become your greatest strength. May this message bring hope and comfort to all those enduring difficult times.